I'm going to start with 2 multiple response questions. So here's your first one. All right, let's see what we got here. You're called to a patient with abdominal pain. Which of the following would cause you to suspect appendicitis? Select the 3 correct answers. Okay, as we do this, remember, they will tell you here in the question that there are either 2 or 3 choices. You cannot advance to the next question unless the correct number of choices are made. So let's say that you pick 2 and it really wants you to pick 3. You shouldn't be able to move on from that. And you shouldn't be able to pick more than the number they want. The questions always have 3 incorrect answers. So it'll be 2 of 5 or 3 of 6. Today I did some 3 of 6 just to change it up a little bit. A lot of times I do those polls which only let me give 5 choices. So the correct answers here are pain at McBurney's point. All right, McBurney's point, if you don't know that, and that's why we do this here, McBurney's point is a spot on the right anterior superior iliac spine, the pointy part of the hip that you can palpate below the right lower quadrant. 1/3 of the way between that bony prominence of the hip, 1/3 of the way to the belly button. That's McBurney's point. That's where you can find the appendix. Pain in McBurney's point usually occurs when appendicitis has progressed, often starts at the belly button or umbilicus, but then moves down to that right lower quadrant. So choice A is correct. Choice B is also correct. Nausea and vomiting is common, and sometimes there's actually a little bit of relief of the pain after vomiting, but it comes back. The other correct answer here is pain on movement, choice D, like David. So that gives us A, B, and D. Pain in the upper right quadrant, nope, appendix is in the lower right quadrant, and the patient being 64 years of age. The most common time for appendicitis is between 10 and 30. That's the 2nd and 3rd decades of life. That is when the overwhelming majority of appendicitis cases come through. It doesn't mean it can't be a 64-year-old, but abdominal pain in a 64-year-old is different than abdominal pain in a younger patient, and we have better answers here. Now, choice D, like David, pain on movement, there is a test called Merkel's test. It's also known as the heel drop test. Someone is standing or can stand, and they get up on their toes and they fall down. They let their weight drop on their heels, heel drop test. If their belly hurts when that happens, it means there's peritoneal involvement. So that's where you might see that. I don't recommend making a patient stand up that doesn't want to stand up. But the heel drop test or Merkel's test indicates that when that happens, so that pain on movement is real. With walking or flexing the legs, when the peritoneum is involved, that often indicates abdominal problems like appendicitis. So choice A, B, and D are the correct answers. Choice C, recent ingestion of a fatty meal, that is cholecystitis, where we'll see that one. All right, let's put up another multiple response question. All right. Obstructive shock, something blocks blood flow. Now the correct answer here is C like Charlie, D like David, and F like Frank. All right, C, D, F. Hemothorax would cause hypovolemic shock, low volume shock. If the ascending aortic aneurysm ruptured, that would cause pretty rapid hypovolemic shock. Pulmonary embolism blocks blood flow. It's one of the medical causes of obstructive shock. Cardiac tamponade and tension pneumo are. I put bowel obstruction in there just because it had the word obstruction in there to see if I could get anybody with that choice. It's not trickery to do that, quite frankly. It's the National Registry won't trick you, but they'll put in choosable things. They'll put in things that have appeal, even if they're not correct. You really need to know your stuff. Remember, There's no partial credit in these, so you've got to get all of these. Again, pulmonary embolism, cardiac tamponade, intention pneumothorax. All right. The ascending aortic aneurysm, and that's when it comes out of the left ventricle and then goes up right before it makes the loop. That's the ascending aorta, all right? And that is, if it ruptures, would be hypovolemic. It could be rapidly fatal, but that's what that would be.